Well, I'm on the diving board at my high school, and before my high school turned co-ed, the nuns would come out and swim with us in this swimming pool, which is now no longer functional, but it was great to see them out in these weird black bathing suits with the little skirts on them and black bathing caps, and the only fashion statement that they made at all was they all wore peculiar sunglasses, and they would have wingtip sunglasses with rhinestones and the little wraparound sunglasses with the slash of shade in the middle, and very spectacular sunglasses. It was great to see them be human and be fun and know that they had senses of humor, because they were always such very intense human beings. Well, musically in Austin during the late 60s, there was a great acoustic music scene. Jerry Jeff Walker, Michael Martin Murphy, Carolyn Hester would come back to town and play quite a bit. It was just a great scene of writers. Guy Clark, Townes Van Zandt. And as a young girl, I was very fortunate to have parents who would take me to hear them, because they all played in bars where you couldn't be if you were under 21, unless you were accompanied by your parents. And my parents were great at taking me around to hear the music that I wanted to hear. My dad was a big fan of folk music anyway, so we just kind of palled around together to go hear people play. There was great joy in our household when I was a child, with my parents being beatniks and hanging around with people who were somewhat eclectic and played weird instruments, came to the house, played music, had hoot nannies. I feel very fortunate that my parents exposed me to that when I was young. I did my first professional gig at the age of 14 on a Thanksgiving evening downtown at the Red Lion Cabaret. I made $11. It was a great evening. Nobody came. I was terrible, but made $11. Playing music was just all I ever wanted to do, and the road of playing acoustic music was set out for me by the heroes that I had to go hear in my young years. And I never knew that other towns around the country didn't have that acoustic music scene. The road that I followed was the road that they had paved for me as artists. And I never knew that it was the road least traveled until I started touring myself. I learned a lot of other people's songs when I went to school here, because I played for folk mass every week, and I learned a lot of Bob Dylan songs, a lot of Tom Paxton songs for folk mass. The nuns were very involved in the anti-war movement, and so we played a lot of folk mass songs that were God on Our Side, Times They Are Changin', type of songs in folk mass, and I learned a lot. It was much like my parents who were involved in the civil rights movement. I thought this was normal for everyone, everywhere, that to be involved in such things, because I had had it in childhood through my parents, being involved in the civil rights movement, and then in my high school years through the nuns in my high school. So I just thought that everybody did that exercised their right of freedom of speech and the right to protest. And I learned most of my greatest lessons of life here on this campus. Austin, Texas is my hometown. I'm a rarity because Austin is a mecca for the music industry, and people migrate here and musicians move here from all over the world, but it is actually my hometown.
There's something very basically Texas about her voice that really strikes a chord in my own heart.
We love her albums. We listen to them every day, in the car, at home.
First time I ever saw her was on the night of an eclipse of a full moon. She was playing in a little place called You Scream Ice Cream here, which is an ice cream store and beer joint and a converted 7-Eleven store when she was just getting started. And we all went out and hung out in the parking lot and watched the eclipse of the full moon.
When I used to live in Montana, and my boyfriend lived in Seattle, and I had to drive 7 hours every weekend to see him, and I would listen to that song when I got lonely on the road, and Nanci pulled me through, and she was talking about character of Caroline pulling her through last night in Hard Times, but she's the one that pulled me through.
You know, you'd say, oh, we're going to go see some folk music. They wouldn't think twice about it. But if you can get them to sit down and listen to it, a lot of people really, I think, really enjoy it. There's real sincerity to her stuff.
Well, the folk songs, I don't know, they just take you back somewhere that you didn't know you needed to go till you get there.
Nanci Griffith was good to me and played songs for me before I was governor and before she was famous. This is her last performance before she starts on her world tour and doing the European leg of it. And I know that they're going to know that you can take the girl out of Texas, but you can't take the Texas out of the girl. Nanci Griffith!
Governor of the great state of Texas, Ann Richards.